You're watching UnrealEntGaming. This is Gohan from Dragon Ball Z. You want to see me turn Super Saiyan? Or should I take it to the next level? I'm also the narrator, too. Next time on Dragon Ball Z, make sure and smash subscribe to UnrealEntGaming.
With Dragon Ball Super manga chapter number 55 now officially in the history books, Moro and his gang of criminal prisoners have now informed our heroes that they will return to Earth in 2 months' time to finish what they've started, as Moro had now learned of Goku and Vegeta's training to become stronger during Dragon Ball Super manga chapter number 54, and now sets his sights in destroying them once and for all at their very best. And with Goku and Merus continuing their training inside the Room of Spirit and Time, and Vegeta on planet Yardrat training to master spirit control, it's a race against time as our heroes now take the little time they have in doing everything they can to better prepare themselves against Moro. As once more before we begin, if you are new to this channel and have a love and passion for all things Dragon Ball and anime related, then be sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on all notifications by clicking on the bell icon to never miss a single video on this channel, as of course if you guys are stoked, ready, and excited to see what's going to come from the Dragon Ball Super manga, carrying on from Dragon Ball Super manga chapter number 55 into manga chapter number 56, then be sure to give this video a big thumbs up by slapping that like button down below. As of course, if you guys want to be updated and catch up with all the latest Dragon Ball Super manga related content, then be sure to visit the official Dragon Ball Super mangas playlist located down in the description box below for all the latest and best from the official Dragon Ball Super manga. As of course, we kick off the Dragon Ball Super manga chapter number 55 edition entitled Merus' True Identity on the Homeworld of Zeno, as the Grand Priest goes on to tell Whis, "I dispatched my trainee Merus to Universe 7 so that he might learn about the ways of things and broaden his perspective." To where Whis comments, "Indeed, the Grand Priest continues, his enlisting in the Galactic Patrol seemed a decent choice, as it would allow him to observe the side of good and virtue, but alas, beyond that single law, there are no restrictions on what we can or cannot do. We angels must always act impartially." As Whis goes on to comment, "He seems to have gained a bias," as the Grand Priest goes on to tell Whis, "Just so. Any further and we will be in violation of our code, as he is pushing the limits. I shall have ended Merus' tenure in the mortal realm." As Whis goes on to tell him, "Grand Priest, might you allow me to collect Merus and deal with him on my own?" As the Grand Priest looks on in shock, he goes on to ask, "Meaning?" As Whis goes on to respond, "His actions with the Galactic Patrol have been limited to fighting with mortal weapons. He hasn't used his angel abilities, and at the moment all he is doing is training Goku, no more than that." And as we get to see the Grand Priest looking down and observing Merus sparring with Goku, he went along to comment, "Yes, it is as you say." As Whis goes on to tell him, "Even I have taken it upon myself to train mortals." As the Grand Priest goes on to tell him, "Only because you've craved the food on Earth." And with Whis acknowledging this by laughing, he went along to ask, "Am I transparent?" As the Grand Priest agrees, he went along to tell Whis, "Very well. He came close, but he did not violate our laws. Go on. I leave Merus in your care." And as Whis agrees, the Grand Priest continues, "But do keep a close eye on that." As Whis goes on to acknowledge this, the Grand Priest then goes on to tell him, "Troublemaker or not, I do not wish to lose an angel." So basically here we understand that Merus is a trainee angel, and he was placed within the confines of Universe 7 to basically gain a better understanding and perspective on life itself, both the good and bad, with Merus making that sole choice in enlisting himself within the Galactic Patrol, and the only code he had was never to use his true angel abilities nor reveal himself to the mortals. But the only concern here is that Merus may in fact actually break this code by fully using his angel powers to train Goku, and that is where Merus is towing a fine line in nearly breaking the code of the angels. But even then, as we go back to planet Yardrat, we get to observe how one of the galactic patrollers that brought Vegeta to planet Yardrat is trying to start up his ship, and even then he's trying to reach back to HQ. As he went along to comment, "Darn, I still can't get a hold of HQ. What's going on in the galaxy? I sure hope everyone's okay. As the narration then goes on to inform us, planet Yardrat falls outside of the Galactic Patrol's jurisdiction. With no way to communicate, Iriko and Vegeta could not receive updates, but only then Iriko goes on to look up. As he observes an incoming ship having to enter planet Yardrat's atmosphere, Iriko then goes on to ask, wait, that ship. As he eerily enough begins to observe a bit closer, he then realizes that this ship actually belongs to Moro and his men. As we go back to the main Yardranian who seems to be training Vegeta, we only then get to observe how the Yardrats seem very calm, they're refining their skills, training, practicing. As the main Yardrat looks on, we observe how Vegeta is still in the exact same position that we last saw him in, as only then we get to see how Vegeta seems to be shaking, he seems to be exhausted. As he touches back down, the main Yardrat goes on to tell Vegeta, wonderful spirit power. Your spirit is now more polished than Goku's, and you managed it in no time. As Vegeta is breathing heavy, he's huffing and puffing, he then went along to comment, of course, Kakarot and I are not cut from the same cloth. So Vegeta actually had polished his spirit control faster and better now than even Goku. And as Vegeta stands up, the Yardrat goes on to tell him now to begin teaching you our abilities, with Vegeta having to finally comment at last. The Yardrat then proceeds to stick his hand out in healing Vegeta. As Vegeta is baffled as to what is going on, he goes on to ask, was that a healing technique? As the youngest Yardrat then goes on to reply Vegeta in telling him one of Elder Pybrara's signature moves. Pretty great, huh? As Vegeta asks, and I can learn to perform such a move? As Pybrara goes on to comment, don't get ahead of yourself. That's high level stuff, and you are not there just yet. As Vegeta noticeably gets angry, he goes on to comment, what can I do at this point then? As Pybrara goes on to tell him, first, the most fundamental basics. I will teach you instant teleportation. As Vegeta then goes on to ask, instant teleportation is only the basics? As their conversation only then gets cut short with a massive explosion having to happen in the distance, Vegeta goes on to ask, what the? As the Yardrats then begin to panic, one of them goes on to cry out, I'm sensing wicked spirits on our planet. As Pybrara comments, yikes. We've got some unpleasant guests. With Iriko having to fly by using the rocket boosters on his feet, he went along to cry out, Vegeta! It's bad! Moro's goons are here. As Vegeta comments they've made it out this far. And as soon as Vegeta is about to fly out, Pybrara goes on to tell Vegeta, Vegeta, wait! As Vegeta asks what now, Pybrara goes on to tell him, you're still in training. Be mindful of how you wield that power, okay? As Vegeta seems to be confused, Iriko then begins to panic as Vegeta then dashes on out and having to tell Iriko, try to keep up, Iriko. As we then go back to the mainland, we get to observe how Moro's men are basically causing chaos everywhere they go. They're attacking the people, they're destroying the buildings, and the leader behind this specific crew, who seems to have an eerily enough similar resemblance to Zarbon, goes on to comment, a lovely planet brimming with energy, one that is sure to please Lord Moro. But then Iriko and Vegeta touch down as this individual goes on to ask, and who might this be? Not knowing the situation at hand, Iriko then goes on to tell Vegeta, that one's Yuzun, one of Sagambo's minions. As Vegeta then goes on to reply, Moro won't be making a meal of this planet. As Yuzun goes on to comment, oh, you are, yes, the Galactic Patrol member from Namek. Oh, you fled all this way to this rock? Lord Moro ought to know about this, but Vegeta wastes little time in making any conversation with him as he goes on to reply, not on my watch, as he then points his finger in creating this massive blast that Vegeta himself can't even believe, and with a single stroke of Vegeta's one finger, he manages to shoot this massive energy blast directly at Yunzun. As Yunzun looks on, he goes on to cry out, what the? As the blast itself completely overtakes him, Vegeta's spirit control is on a whole different level, because now he's creating blasts that he really wasn't intentionally going to use, as this blast completely just creates a massive crater out in the distance. We get to see how somehow Yunzun had actually survived this, but he's in pretty bad shape, as he goes on to cry out, how dare you? With no warning. And with Vegeta looking on, he went along to even ask himself, What was that? As Pybrara ends up showing up behind Vegeta by using instant transmission, he went along to comment, "Knock that off. Don't go wrecking our planet." As the littlest Yardrat goes on to reply, "Well, good thing nobody actually lives in the city, but still." As Vegeta goes on to ask, "Care to explain?" Pybrara goes on to reply, "You just witnessed your own power." As Vegeta asks, "What?" Pybrara continues, "Before your training here, your body and spirit were so off balanced that you couldn't project your own power very well." As Vegeta then looks at his hands, he goes on to comment, meaning, "I've already grown stronger since I've arrived?" As Pybrara responds, "Sure have, by leaps and bounds." So Vegeta, now that he has been on Yardrat, is exponentially more powerful than even when we saw Vegeta fight Moro on planet Namek. And that right there should go on to tell you all that Vegeta is going to be meaning big business when he finally gets back to Earth. But even then, Yunzun's men go on to ask, "Are you okay?" with Pybrara having to tell Vegeta, "Like I said, you gotta be mindful of that power." And Yunzun is pissed because he goes on to tell his own cronies, "What are you fools staring at? Fight back!" And the minute they try to do so, they charge on in directly at Vegeta, and Vegeta is so focused, he seems to be so serious, that with 2 simple strikes, he so casually knocks Moro's men behind him into some buildings. With Yunzun having to look on, Vegeta is dead set on being as focused as he should be in getting the job done. And this really begins to piss off Yunzun as he goes on to tell Vegeta, "Now, I'm mad. You won't get away with this." As he then goes on ahead to fully transform, this character is so similar to Zarbon in the fact that even his transformation, the Potara earrings on his ear, and even on his forehead are all still the same. As finally then this creature transforms into a hideous monster, everyone then looks on as Yunzun goes on to laugh and crying out, "Now I've transformed. Now you're done for." As all the other Yardrats are beginning to scream in fear, Iriko then goes on to comment, I've never seen a transformation before." But Vegeta isn't worried. As a matter of fact, he seems to be laughing as he goes on to tell him, "Yeah, I've seen plenty like him. This shouldn't be a problem." As Yunzun goes on to comment, "Then why don't you try me? I'll spare Lord Moro the trouble of killing you." But it's as I said, Vegeta at this point is not playing any games because Vegeta moves in so quick that he so casually delivers a single strike that knocks this creature back, so much so that as Vegeta is standing there grinning, he went along to ask, "Try you?" "I believe I just did." And with Yunzun on the ground, Vegeta continues, "Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Who exactly will you be killing?" And once we finally get to see this creature stagger backwards as it then goes on to fully acknowledge Vegeta, I love how the creature then immediately goes into offensive mode and attempts to strike Vegeta from above, but Vegeta having to be so cognitive and so aware of not only his environment but also being able to react fast enough to stop himself from being hit. I really appreciate the level of detail in seeing Vegeta basically look up and smile right in the face of this thing, as this thing seems to be more annoyed than anything else. And with Vegeta then having to take matters into his own hands, he then goes on ahead to so casually kick this creature in the face. As this thing is sent flying out in the distance, it goes crashing directly into a building, as it goes as far as clinching onto the building itself to prevent himself from flying any further. But even then, the sheer force and the weight and the velocity in which this person was sent hurtling out in the distance by Vegeta's kick was so intense that the building itself is then literally almost lifted off the ground itself. As this thing barely manages to hang on, I really do love the level of tension here, because as this creature goes tumbling on the other side, we get to see how the building literally flips over another smaller building on its side, with the creature Yunzun actually clinching onto the building itself. As the Yardrats go on to ask, is he lifting the whole building? And that's exactly what Yunzun had done, because he goes on to take this entire building and chuck it directly at Vegeta. And the minute he does so, I really do love how Vegeta's right hand so casually just glides onto the actual object itself and then repels the object outwards. Vegeta is so strong that he was able to actually take this building, and with complete ease, right? Almost as if this thing was just like a flower in Vegeta's hand, he just chucks it away with absolute ease. continues, with Vegeta then having to tell Yunzun, "You are no match for me, so just stop. This is futile," but Yunzun's not stopping because then he goes on ahead to lift another building up and telling Vegeta, "Not a chance." As he then infuses a little bit of his energy into the actual object itself, Pybrara went along to comment he's pumped it full of energy to harden it, and that's exactly what Yunzun had done as he goes on to tell Vegeta, "You're done for," and tosses the object directly at Vegeta, but Vegeta, still in base mind you, leaps up off the ground and so casually deflects the object back at Yunzun, and with the object now having to fly towards Yunzun's direction, what he ends up doing is catching on to the object itself and then throwing it directly back up above him, in further having to prevent himself from being struck by his own attack. But then Vegeta quickly moves on in and kicks Yunzun directly in the stomach, followed by kicking him again with the same foot in the face, causing him to stagger back, and with Yunzun having to then be shown just being absolutely manhandled by Vegeta, what Vegeta ends up doing is kicking Yunzun so hard as he goes flying through several buildings as he goes on to hit the ground. I love how Pybrara then goes on to tell everyone, "I told him not to wreck the place." Yunzun is then shown on the edge of a cliff as he reverted back to his base form and having to be completely baffled by the idea that Vegeta had done this, with Vegeta then having to tell him, "I can't allow you to run back to Moro, but if you surrender and return to the Galactic Patrol prison, I won't have to kill you." As Yunzun goes on to tell Vegeta, "Don't you worry, Lord Moro's next target isn't this planet. It's a place called Earth." As Vegeta then is quickly alarmed, he goes on to ask, "What?" Yunzun then continues, "Oh, that sure got you frustrated. Could that be the planet you call home?" As Yunzun's ship then slowly creeps up behind him, Yunzun observes this. As Iriko touches on down, he goes on to tell Vegeta, "Did I just hear that right? Earth's on the menu?" As Yunzun goes on to reply, "Anyhow, I'll be taking my leave now," with Vegeta having to ask, "So that scum has set his sights on Earth?" And the minute we get to see how Yunzun leaps backwards off of the cliff itself, he holds on to the ship as the ship then takes away, and with Yunzun having to hold on above, he goes on to tell Vegeta bye, as Iriko goes on to cry out, that jerk!" But Vegeta isn't finished, because remember that object that Vegeta had so casually kicked away? Well, we get to see how Vegeta was just about to blast the ship until out of nowhere, the object seemed to have changed directions as it's hurtling itself directly at Yunzun and his ship. Vegeta is absolutely floored because he was about to get the job done, but instead, the object did as it crashed directly into the ship. Iriko is floored at what just happened as he went along to ask, What the heck?" As Vegeta went along to comment, "So, he killed himself." And with the situation now dying down, Iriko then went along to ask Vegeta, What now, Vegeta? Shouldn't we hurry back on Earth?" As Vegeta went along to comment, "No, Earth remains untouched for now." As Iriko asks, "Huh? Well, how could you tell?" As Pybrara shows up behind Vegeta, he went along to tell him, "Honing your spirit allows you to sense other spirits, even ones far away," which further confirms the idea that Vegeta now, even on planet Yardrat, is able to sense the living beings all the way from Earth. So that's how strong Vegeta had gotten on planet Yardrat in doing things now and being able to sense people from such faraway places that even arguably Goku can't do. As Vegeta went along to tell Pybrara, "I'm short on time, Pybrara. Instant teleportation won't cut it. I need a technique capable of bringing down Moro." As all the other Yardrats go on to comment, "Whoa there, buddy. Show some respect. That's Elder Pybrara, and you can't just go around messing with the order of the lessons, come on," as Pybrara agrees in commenting, "Fine." The other Yardrats are floored as they go on to ask, "Huh?" Pybrara then comments, "There's no point of it all. He won't make it in time." So outside of instant transmission, it would appear that Pybrara now is going to be teaching Vegeta something more, just so when he arrives on Earth, he has a better chance now of defeating Moro. And speaking of Moro, elsewhere somewhere in the universe, we get to see how Moro is on his ship with Sagambo, and they seem to have collected some items from this planet, as Moro then went along to comment, "I see. He truly has grown more powerful, that one called Vegeta." As Sagambo goes on to ask, "You found him?" Moro then went along to comment, "On the planet Yunzun ventured to, yes. though Yunzun is dead now, as Sagambo asks, what? It can't be. He's supposed to be unbeatable after transforming, as Moro then went along to comment, what a delightful development. In that case, I shall stock up and reach the outer limits of my power before traveling to Earth. Assuming I am even constrained by such limits. As Sagambo laughs, Moro went along to tell him, Sagambo, find more suitable planets for me. As Sagambo agrees in claiming, you got it. With the narration then having to state, leading up to his attack on Earth, Moro continued to devour planets throughout the galaxy. Meanwhile, Goku and Vegeta's training also progressed until at last, 2 months has passed. So now we've done a quick little time jump in learning more about Moro, in the fact that even though Moro had found out that Vegeta and assumingly Goku are much more powerful now than how they were before, it's scary to think about the fact that Moro is not worried at all, because now everyone's gotten stronger. Vegeta, Goku, and now Moro. And as we speak of Goku, inside of the hyperbolic time chamber, we get to see how Merus looks on over and observes and notices that the clock is just about to strike midnight. It's about to be the final hour before they actually finish their training, as Merus then goes on to tell Goku time is nearly up. Let us spar once more before taking off for Earth. As Goku agrees in telling him sounds good, I'll just have to use everything I've learned in here. As Merus then looks on at Goku and getting very serious, he then went along to tell him, I won't hold back either. As eerily enough, there is a moment where there is a very familiar aura beginning to overtake Goku's body, just as we've seen during the Tournament of Power, but even with Merus, we get to see how he is beginning to tap more into his angel power. As you guys can quickly notice, there is an angel ring that is beginning to surround Merus as he's beginning to tap more into his power, as only then Merus was just about to use the full power of what an angel is capable of until out of nowhere, Merus and Goku then suddenly end up outside, with Merus having to ask, what? Goku then goes on to comment, hey, we're outside again? As out of nowhere behind Merus, Whis steps down, as he goes on to tell Merus that's quite enough. With Goku shocked, he went along to ask, huh? It's you, Whis? As Merus went along to comment, brother. With Goku asking, brother? Whis then went along to comment, it's been ages, Merus. With Merus having to close his eyes and bowing his head, he went along to ask, so, you caught wind of what I was up to. As Whis then went along to tell him, I'm afraid there are no secrets between angels. As Goku asks, angels? I know you were weird, but you're an angel, Merus? As Merus turns around, he went along to tell Goku, yes. As Whis then chimes in, training can only be just that, training. Clashing against each other at full strength constitutes a battle. With Merus apologizing, Whis then continues, even more egregious was that you were planning to travel to Earth and do battle against Moro. As Merus asks, you knew? With Goku asking, oh right, angels aren't allowed to fight except in training, right? As Whis agrees, Goku then went along to comment, that explains a lot, Merus. With Merus then having to tell Goku, I apologize for keeping it from you. As Goku then responds, but wait, what happens if you guys do fight? As Whis goes on to tell Goku, angels who break their code are eradicated without a trace. As Goku's baffled, he goes on to ask, eradicated? Like what? Poof? I thought angels couldn't die. As Whis explains, it is the only means by which an angel can be removed from existence. There is no way around this truth. Such is the nature of the angel life form. With Goku commenting sheesh, Whis then continues, on that note, I have come to inform you that your time in the mortal realm is over, Merus. As Merus then takes the knee, having to state understood, Whis then goes on to tell Merus, henceforth I will be responsible for you. As he then leans in closer, he went along to tell him, be grateful that I am dragging you right back to the Grand Priest. As he then taps his staff down, we get to see how Merus reverts back into his original angel clothing. Goku goes on to claim Merus. With Merus turning around, he went along to tell Goku, I am only sorry I couldn't see this through with you. As Merus then spawns his own staff, he quickly taps down and Goku's clothing and his body is healed, as Merus then goes on to tell Goku, I have faith that you will defeat Moro. As Goku responds, sure, I'll figure something out. As Whis went along to tell Merus, it's back to the angel realm with you. As Merus responds yes, Whis then turns around as Merus touches hands with Whis and telling him until next time Goku, as they immediately take off and going back to the angel homeworld. Goku then went along to comment, anywho, better get myself back to Earth. As he then looks on over at the spaceship, he observes and notices that there is no pilot for Goku to go back to Earth with, as Goku then went along to cry out, hold up, I gotta pilot that thing back to Earth myself? What? I can't do it! Wait! Come back, Whis! As the manga chapter special then comes to a close. Now, Merus' identity is in fact confirmed to be an angel, and now that 2 months have passed, we're only going to be entering the upcoming manga chapters with Moro having to finally get to Earth, and Vegeta has gotten stronger, Goku has gotten stronger, and Moro has as well. But the question is, what is everyone on Earth going to do? Have they been training? What are they going to possibly do if Vegeta and Goku don't end up coming to Earth fast enough before Moro actually gets there? So this manga chapter special, I do believe, really shined light on how strong Vegeta had gotten since, initially arriving on planet Yardrat, and with Goku having to basically tap into this very familiar power, does this mean that Goku at some point is now able to finally tap into Ultra Instinct? And what does this mean going forward, especially entering the new year, by kicking things off with Moro initially now having to arrive on Earth? But by the end of all of this, I want to get your thoughts in the comment section below about everything that's transpired in the Dragon Ball Super manga thus far, as this month marks the official anniversary event since the debut of the Moro arc in 2018. So since then, I would like to get your thoughts on the overall direction within the manga itself. I want to know your thoughts on what you thought about Goku and Vegeta's separation, in one having to train differently than the other, in the idea of utilizing Ultra Instinct, in the idea of mastering spirit control, and more importantly, where do you guys see the overall direction of this manga chapter going into 2020? As always, I want to thank you all so much for your time. I want to thank you all so much for taking the time to watch this video in catching up with the latest edition of the Dragon Ball Super manga. I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday season. I hope you guys have a fantastic New Year's Eve, as well as a fantastic new year going into 2020. The manga now is beginning to really kick up the pace, as is many other things coming in 2020. So again, I really want to get your thoughts in creating an intellectual conversation in the comment section about your overall ideals and your overall thoughts going into the next manga chapter, as we all already know right now that once everything comes to a head and we have everybody clash at the same time, especially given the narrative of Moro having to get stronger and Merus now having to be confirmed to be an angel, and with Goku now seemingly heading back, it's going to be very interesting considering Vegeta's training and seeing how everything comes together. But in the end, I want to get your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you all so much for watching, guys. Once more, the road to 1 million subscribers continues. I do encourage you guys to please spread the word about the channel. Hit that subscribe button if you guys are new. Slap a big fat like down below if you guys are stoked, ready, and excited for more. Tune back in for more, and I'll be seeing you all down in the comment section below. Have a great day, everybody. See you later. Peace.
This is the Galactic Emperor of the Universe, and of course I'm here to tell you to subscribe to UnrealEntGaming.
Also follow UnrealEntGaming on these social media platforms to stay connected at all times. And if you don't, then very soon you will all be dead! Oh, did someone say UnrealEntGaming? Oh my god.
The fuck's up, on? Put on some clothes!
Well, why don't you put on any clothes?
What? I don't need clothes. Jesus Christ, that's huge! What, Broly?
Frieza.
Uh-oh.
Prepare to die!
But once you get video, lots of likes, or Bill will turn you into chocolate!
Vados, get over here! Tell these mortals that I'm the biggest UnrealEntGaming fan! This is my moment! I'm a part of his notification squad! Universe 7 can have all the fun! I just want the food!
And don't forget to leave a comment on this video! Show some love for the best community on YouTube!
Kakarot!